The grand hall of the Varathian hunting lodge fell silent as Draven Kor stepped forward, his crimson scales gleaming under the bioluminescent ceiling. His 4 eyes fixed upon the human standing before the assembled council of hunters, a creature so small and fragile that many wondered if bringing him here had been a mistake. "Ryan Hale of Earth," Draven's voice rumbled through the chamber, each word carrying the weight of tradition spanning millennia. "You stand before the greatest hunters in 7 star systems. We have tracked and conquered beasts that would make your primitive predators look like prey, and yet your species claims to be apex survivors." Ryan shifted his weight slightly, his plain clothing a stark contrast to the elaborate armor and ceremonial pelts worn by the alien hunters around him. He'd been plucked from a conservation reserve on Earth 3 weeks ago, told only that an opportunity awaited him among the stars. Now he understood. This was a test. "The Shadow Maw," Draven continued, gesturing to a holographic display that materialized in the center of the hall. The image showed a creature of pure nightmare, 12 feet of muscle, scales, and teeth, with 6 limbs ending in razor talons and eyes that burned with predatory intelligence. "It dwells in the Crimson Barrens of our homeworld. In 3,000 years, only 17 hunters have successfully killed one. Most who try never return." The other Varathians chittered and clicked their approval. This was their ultimate challenge, their final word on the hierarchy of hunters across the galaxy. "So you want me to kill it," Ryan said quietly, his eyes never leaving the hologram. "We invite you to try," Draven corrected, his mandibles spreading in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Tomorrow at dawn you will be transported to the Barrens. You may take any weapon from our armory. If you return with proof of the kill, humanity will be recognized as a true warrior species. If you fail—" He left the sentence unfinished, but the implication hung heavy in the recycled air. Ryan nodded slowly. "And if I choose not to hunt it?" The hall erupted in confused chatter. Draven's scales darkened with what might have been anger or confusion. "Then you prove what many already suspect, that humans are weak, overly sentimental creatures who succeeded through luck rather than merit." "I'll go," Ryan said simply, "but I choose my own methods." The Crimson Barrens lived up to their name. Rust-colored sand stretched endlessly beneath a sky tinged purple by the system's binary suns. Ryan had declined every weapon offered, taking instead only a pack of supplies, water, food, medical equipment, and several items the Varathians couldn't identify. Draven had accompanied him, maintaining a safe distance while observing through advanced tracking equipment. He'd seen hundreds of hunts in his long life, but never had a hunter entered the Barrens unarmed. This human was either brilliantly cunning or monumentally foolish. It took only 3 hours for the Shadow Maw to find them. It emerged from beneath the sand like a living nightmare, its roar splitting the air with sonic force. Draven's equipment registered the creature's vital signs: elevated heart rate, dilated pupils, defensive posture. It was preparing to attack. Ryan didn't run. Instead, he slowly lowered himself to the ground, sitting cross-legged in the sand. From his pack, he withdrew something that made Draven's translator glitch in confusion. Dried meat, heavily seasoned. The Shadow Maw circled, confused by prey that didn't flee. Its sensory organs twitched, detecting the scent of food. Ryan placed several pieces on the sand before him and waited, his posture relaxed, his breathing steady. For 20 minutes, nothing happened. Then the creature's front limbs touched the sand a few meters away, its eyes burning with predatory fire fixed on the human who sat impossibly still. Draven watched in fascination as Ryan began to speak, his voice low and rhythmic. The same tone Draven had heard human trainers use with domesticated animals. But the Shadow Maw was no pet. It was an apex predator, a creature of pure instinct and aggression. Yet slowly, impossibly, the creature crept forward, its massive head lowered toward the offered meat. One piece vanished in a flash of teeth. Then another. Ryan remained motionless except for his hand, which moved to place more food within reach. 3 days passed. Draven's initial skepticism had transformed into something approaching awe. The human had established what he called a trust protocol, spending hours in the creature's presence, sharing food, moving slowly, reading its body language with uncanny accuracy. On the 4th day, Ryan reached out and touched the Shadow Maw's scaled hide. The creature rumbled, a sound Draven had never heard in any recording. It wasn't aggression. It was something else entirely. The Shadow Maw leaned into the contact, its 6 eyes half closing. "She's not a monster," Ryan said, more to himself than to Draven's distant sensors. She's territorial, protective. Probably has a nest nearby. The hunters who died weren't killed by a mindless beast, they were killed by a mother defending her home. By the 7th day, the shadow maw followed Ryan like a massive, lethal shadow. He'd discovered her den, found the 3 juveniles hidden within, and had been bringing food for the entire family. In return, the adult had allowed him to examine her scales, treat minor wounds, and even rest against her side during the cold desert nights. When Ryan finally returned to the hunting lodge, Draven Kor stood before the assembled council, his expression unreadable. "You bring no proof of kill," Draven stated. "No," Ryan agreed. "But I bring proof of something more important." He activated his personal holocorder. The images showed everything: the initial contact, the gradual trust building, the moment of first touch, and finally, the shadow maw resting peacefully as Ryan's hand scratched behind her sensory ridge. "Your most lethal beast," Ryan said, his voice carrying through the stunned silence, "is only lethal because you've been invading her territory for 3,000 years. She's not a monster, she's a mother. And now she's under human protection. Any hunter who enters the Crimson Barrens without permission will answer to Earth's Conservation Authority." Draven stared at the human for a long moment. Then, to the shock of every Vorathian present, he began to laugh, a deep, resonant sound that echoed through the hall. "You didn't conquer the unconquerable," Draven said, respect evident in his tone. "You befriended it. You turned our ultimate challenge into a companion." He stepped forward, extending his clawed hand in the human gesture of greeting he'd learned. "Perhaps humanity's strength isn't in killing what they fear. Perhaps it's in refusing to fear what they don't understand." Ryan shook the offered hand. "We call it compassion, and it's gotten us further than claws ever could." As the council debated and argued, Ryan smiled to himself. Tomorrow he'd return to the Barrens. The Shadow Maw and her family would need regular check-ins, proper territory designation, and maybe some proper veterinary care for that scar tissue he'd noticed. After all, she wasn't a trophy to be won. She was a friend who'd been waiting for someone to finally understand.